Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Gentleman Pursuits podcast. My name is Ryan. Welcome to 2021 first podcast. If you don't count my monologue podcast that I put out last week, this will be the first real podcast. How are you doing, man? How's everyone doing? In case you're asking me, I'm doing.
Oh, okay. Wow, you're doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just still doing the intro, but I love the enthusiasm. Yeah. I'm doing fine, thank you. I'm doing fine. Actually feeling that I'm climbing out of that slump, that energy slump, that sluggishness. However, as usual, Vancouver's weather today's shit. Gloomy, cloudy, and it's probably going to rain soon. It's not raining right now. It's probably going to rain soon. But it's okay because I'm staying in today to do an episode with this gentleman right here. You may have heard his voice and seen his face just now already, but it is different. As I said at the end of last year, I'm really trying to branch out to, various topics here. Well, at least topics that I thoroughly enjoy learning. And one of the topics within men's fashion is, perfumes, to smell good. Who doesn't like to smell good, right? Who doesn't want to smell good? So today we have Matt Meleg from Meleg Parfum, an independent perfumer from Vancouver, literally just 40-minute bus ride from where I live right now, on the podcast with us. How are you doing, Matt?
Now I should jump in. I'm doing well, Ryan. Thank you for having me on. Yes.
When do we start talking? Like towards the end of last year? Yeah, like around December, November.
Yeah, I think we came across each other on social media because that's the way to meet people and do things nowadays. And we're both in Vancouver, and I think it was
we just linked
towards the end.
Yeah. I've seen the other interview you did. I forgot what's the channel's name called, but it's also talking about fragrances. I saw the interview you sent me, and it was fabulous, man. I just love your energy in general and all the things you talk about on social media. Every now and then, you don't just limit yourself to talking about perfumes. You talk about life, and which is something I love so much. You talk about different philosophies you have about a lot of matters, and yeah, that's like when I know you're like different. You're not just a normal person making perfume. Yeah, and before
I guess everybody's I try to be as normal as possible.
No. By normal,
I'm just kidding. I'm just
yeah, I love that energy. I love that energy. But before I ask you any questions, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Before I ask you any questions, of course, I mentioned your brand, Meleg Parfum. Why don't you give us like a brief description of the brand, like kind of the ethos of your perfume brand?
The ethos of my brand. Well, basically my brand is everything is completely handmade. I am a self-taught perfumer, so I taught myself the molecules and chemistry and all the safety stuff, and then how to blend things. So being a one-man show, that's a large part of the brand. Everything's crafted slowly, and I use traditional methods, traditional perfumery methods, and my perfumes are IFRA non-compliant, IFRA, IFRA. We'll get into that later. Mm-hmm. But it basically means that I don't limit my formulas I don't go out of my way to make my formulas dangerous. That wouldn't be a good idea.
Right.
But I certainly use a lot of naturals in my perfumes, which unfortunately, commercial brands, they really sort of limit their use of specific materials because 1 in 10,000 people might be slightly allergic to it. And anyways, I'm not selling millions and millions of perfumes, so I don't have to worry about that. So my brand would be, artisanship, and then very thick, rich, sort of voluptuous, enveloping perfumes.
Yes. For anyone listening right now, if you would just go onto Instagram and search Meleg Perfume, or just Google Meleg Perfume, you can see, like, just go onto the page, the Etsy page where he sells his perfume. You can kind of see the theme, the overall vibe that he's trying to convey. I said, yeah, Meleg Perfume, and www.melegparfum.com. That's the website. Go onto there right now. So look at it while listening to this podcast. So everyone loves a good origin story. And the first time I called you, you told me that you went to school at Meleg Parfum, which is an art school, right? Yeah. You studied arts. And so how...
That was a waste of money.
How hard was it to... Okay, have you been like a science guy? Because I mean, perfume production is a lot of chemistry, as you said. So how hard was that transition to learn and go from, really artsy, hands-on creating mindset to, oh shit, I have to blend this with this, formula related things?
Surprisingly, you can be a complete dummy like me and still blend perfumes. You don't need to know much chemistry.
Okay.
That's kind of a myth. I know that with the larger perfume houses, larger what you would say classically trained perfumers, they do study a little bit of, organic, or at least they used to study a little, actually quite a bit of chemistry. Someone I know, man, he went, anyways, some people are quite knowledgeable in chemistry, but there is, it's not necessary to know it. And certainly the craft is forgiving enough that when you start off, you can slowly introduce chemistry, more knowledge about chemistry as you go along. But you're right, I was kind of joking when I said that Meleg Parfum was a waste of money. It's not a waste of money, but it is rather unfocused, and sort of lack the type modern art, modern paintings. I always I absolutely still do adore the technical prowess of classically trained, for example, like Renaissance painters, Titian or Caravaggio, and all these guys, they crafted their perfumes, or no, not I make perfumes, they do, I need more coffee. I make perfumes, they do paintings. So these guys, they put together these perfumes in a very sort of structured manner, and quite a bit of discipline and training went into it. They studied the anatomy and things like that. And I think you're right to suggest that perfumery demands a bit more, how could you say, structure and technique than is involved in today's modern painting. Now, that's not to say that modern artists don't, they come up with their own techniques, and certainly there are some very, very technical painters and in that sort of way. But you're right to paint that, what would you say, dichotomy? Absolutely,
right.
Yeah.
And what? So what did you study in Meleg Parfum? Like just arts in general, or painting, or what did you study?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Okay, this is probably the first time I'm going to be politically correct. If people are listening to the podcast, you're an Asian guy and I'm a white guy. So it was kind of funny. When I was at Meleg Parfum, you had like all the Asian and white kids together in the same first year. But then all the Asian kids went off to the design, and then all the white kids, they studied like how to be like, revolutionaries through their art, right? So, and you're laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like,
yes,
it's more practical. The parents are like, get a job.
Yeah. Yes.
And the white kids, their parents are like, oh, you've got to be an individual. And so, anyways,
Yeah. Yeah.
If you guys aren't from Vancouver and you're listening in, and I'm being politically incorrect, but it's absolutely true at the same time.
So did you?
So I studied the art. I studied the art part. I'm the white guy. I went to the art part. Yeah.
So you studied the art. So what got you into perfume making? Like, have you always been a fan of perfumes, and then you'd be like, damn, I wish I had my own brand, I should start making my own? Like, what got you into that?
Actually, no.
Okay.
I was never a huge fan of perfumes, although I did always like perfumes. I'm not like a perfume geek or a collector. Certainly I'm not amongst the people that actually purchase my perfumes. Some of the people that purchase my perfumes, or some of the more obscure perfume artists, these folks, they have collections, thousands of bottles, and they absolutely love and adore them. And I think that's great, you know. But I wasn't amongst them. What got me into perfumery was I think it was it was actually a documentary on a material used in perfumery called agar wood, or oud, you know, like Tom Ford's oud wood. It's a very popular commercial fragrance. Tom Ford, by the way, one of my heroes. Absolutely amazing work ethic. Anyways, probably the heroes of a lot of people. So it was a fascinating documentary in that this particular material, it's basically this resin that comes from a tree in the forests of India or Vietnam, the Aquilera tree. And how the Vietnamese had described it in this documentary, I think they were saying they called it like the ghost's resin, or the ghost incense of their ancestors, because as you may or may not know, in the wars between Russia and the United States and the North Vietnamese and the communists, and so a lot of bombs were dropped in the forests of Vietnam, and all these tiny little pieces of shrapnel got stuck into the trees, and these trees produced a resin, and this resin, you know, the locals in the forests of Vietnam, they said it was like it embodied the ghosts and the spirits of their ancestors. But this resin, this oud resin, is like one of the most expensive materials in the world. Natural materials, it's far more expensive than gold, less expensive than diamonds, but you know.
Yes.
And it's a fascinating wood. When you burn it, it smells like leather and honey, and it smells like nuances of dried fruits, and it's got all these different facets in it. And what really took me in was that, you know, the realization that in any single bottle of perfume, you have within it, you know, lavender from France or from the Alps, and you might have rosemary from the United States, and you have like wintergreen from the United States, and then you know, cedarwood from northern British Columbia, or you have an entire little universe inside of each bottle with farmers, and you know, even the molecules themselves are interesting. So there's an entire little universe in every bottle of perfume, and that's when it really started, you know. I was fascinated, so I took my little perfume and I smelt it, and then I looked up, you know, videos how to best appreciate your perfume, and so I discovered another art form that way, and it provided me with that structure and that I was looking for in oil painting that, you know, Emily Carr didn't provide me with. No offense to Emily Carr, guys, you know, it's a good school. It's a good school. Go ahead. Waste your money if you want to go there. No, I'm just kidding.
This whole podcast episode is just an Emily Carr slander.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that you brought oud up, because I have a bottle of Armani oud, which is among So I've smelled the Tom Ford oud, the Versace oud, and then also the Armani oud. The
Okay.
Armani's the one that I like the most, and although obviously I don't know about perfume production to at your level, of course, but it's fascinating to me as well how with the same main ingredient, it can produce like vastly different a smell. So even though these three brands are using the same material, when I smell it, I can clearly I may not be able to tell what underlying note it has, but I can tell it's just different and which one I like the most. And that's
Yeah.
in certain ways also like just like whiskey, right? It's just
Right.
about the smell and personal preference and something like that.
I completely agree with you. You don't have to like. I mean, there's all sorts of different levels of appreciation, right? Your podcast and your YouTube is about how to appreciate things, and I appreciate the fact that you try to bring some of the nuances and subtleties to gentlemanly art, to fashion, to artisanship. But in the end, it really does come down to preference. You can sit there and analyze something until the cows come home, but do you like it or you don't? And for the vast majority of people, that's the main thing. Maybe you're a bit more analytical, like I am. I get joy from actually deconstructing the aesthetics of like a shirt or but yeah, you like it or you don't, so,
yeah. And just a little background story of how I got into perfume is that my first bottle of perfume was recommended by this really by one of my tutor back in Hong Kong, like an English tutor, and then she's around like 55 or 60 between that period, and then she was like, hey, if you ever get a bottle of perfume, all you need is one bottle, and that bottle's Dior Fahrenheit. And I was like, oh, what is that? And then I bought it now, and it's like my all-time favorite. It smells like leather. It's just smells sophisticated, and I was like, and it's like different. Not a lot of people talk about this. All they talk about is like, oh, Dior Sauvage or like Acqua di Gio by Armani or something like that. And I was like, yeah, this is different. That's how I got into perfume. So one thing I learned about perfume, at least for commercialized perfume, is that even pick two random bottles, right? Let's say same thing, like Tom Ford and Armani, same oud, okay? Two random bottles, they smell similar, but their sales number can be drastically different because of how you market it, how you tell the story. And obviously perfume, number one thing is all about smell, but it's also about how you market those smells. And as an independent perfumer, what is the greatest marketing challenge you face, and how do you overcome them as an independent perfumer?
Okay. This is a really good question. Thanks for asking. Okay, so what your question again is, what is the greatest challenge, and how do you overcome it? As an independent perfumer, so first of all, of course, the challenge is learning how to make perfumes. So I spent about 4 years just memorizing the various materials. On my desk right now, I have Gallic wood, I have castoreum, I have clary.
Can you show us the bottle? Like, can you show us?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've got like a spice accord here, kind of peppery. I've got Gallic wood here, which smells like very smoky. I've got a castoreum tincture, which is basically smoked beaver balls. It's a natural musk. Clary sage, it smells like grapes, Concord grapes. I've got a suede-like material, and so for 4 years I spent all this time memorizing the materials and what they smell like and how long they last and how strong they are. So the first thing, you get the technical stuff out of the way. So you need to do that as an independent perfumer, assuming that you're not trained. Then I'm just a regular guy, so you save some money and spend all your funny money on this sort of thing. Just have a regular job, live a very frugal type lifestyle, put together some money, start buying bottles. It doesn't take much. I would say if you're very passionate about what you're doing, the first thing that you can do is set up an Etsy store. And so the very first thing is that nobody knows who you are as an independent artisan, as an independent, for example, watchmaker, or as an independent, let's say watchmaker, independent perfumer. Okay, very similar. So nobody knows who you are, but what you can do and how you can overcome this is make a small presence on social media and really show with transparency. This is what I would suggest for anyone to do, any type of artisan, any type of craftsperson. Show the transparency of your process and your passion. Tell people why you make perfumes, why you make watches. Do little learning videos, explain to them how the mechanisms of watches work and how things are put together. Because I believe that the very first people that may purchase your watches or may purchase your perfumes, these are going to be, and I don't mean to sound cruel or rude, these will be the geekiest of the geeks. These are the people that are really looking for something very different.
Yes.
And you need to connect with this sort of hardcore audience of people who are looking for true artisanship. So make that very transparent and show them your love for the craft. Show them why you make stuff, why you make your products. And that's really, you breathe life and a certain, you breathe the passion into those things. And when people purchase those items, I'm sure it's the same thing if someone were to purchase, a handcrafted artisan watch. It's very expensive, but they can understand why it's expensive. They can see the time, and it's something different. And from there, you can expand outwards. But using Etsy is a really good way to craft your first online presence. And sending samples, as a perfumer, sending samples to perfume reviewers. I don't know how you would really do it if you're a watch person. You might be able to lend your watch to a watch reviewer, as long as they send it back to you, because you don't want to send a $9,000 watch. Yes. But making videos, talking about it, talking with people such as yourself. So that's key. To starting that first tight-knit group of hardcore supporters, and they will actually tell their friends. They will say, hey, you got to look at this guy's videos, he's crazy about perfumes, or he's crazy about watches, and he really goes in depth and he shares his knowledge or her knowledge. And if you do that for enough time, and you keep the level consistent, and you have a direct contact and direct communication with your customers. And this is where Etsy is actually a good thing, because if you get negative feedback, you can communicate directly with them. And it's almost like a testing platform. There's a constant feedback loop built into the Etsy system. I'm not sponsored by Etsy, and they do take a small commission, but I think it's completely reasonable because they got to make money too. So that's what you can do if you're a painter, if you're any kind of artisan. Yeah.
One thing I want to bring up is that when you said, you can just directly talk to your customers, that I felt, deeply. It's because here's like the connection, even though perfume and watch is like completely different thing. One thing about independent watchmaker and perfume maker is that comparing to big companies, like let's say Rolex and Tom Ford, okay, comparing yourself to these big companies, your biggest marketing asset is your closeness to your customers. You can literally text them on phone and build a closer relationship to them, and that's what they value the most. And this is, just really fascinating to me to know that in other aspect, in other industry, every independent something maker, they work the same, is that they build a close connection with their customers. and from that they expand. And I love that.
It's the customers that make, it's the customers, they are actually the company, in a way. I mean, they're just as important as I am. You know, I really believe in delivering the very finest customer service I possibly can. I do chat with my customers on the phone all the time. I text them all the time.
Yes.
And it's very important. Now, Rolex, they don't have to do that. And the reason they don't have to do that is I just assume this. I assume that they did do this for the first 40 years of their existence.
Probably.
They probably did. They probably always demanded the most from themselves. Excellent mechanics, excellent mechanisms, excellent customer service, probably from a bunch of small shops in Switzerland. I'm not sure about the history of it, but you don't grow without this consistent, you know, high level of passion, detail, and delivering good services and creating great relationships with people. It's only after time, after 40 years or something, you've created the brand myth. So when they see even just your seal or your image, they know they have this level of consistency. When you go into a Rolex store, I'm certain that the staff had been already trained to a certain degree level. You know that you're going to get good stuff. You know that the watch is going to maintain its value. But that's only because of the work that Rolex put in.
Yes.
For how many years, when they were only known to a couple hundred people, maybe for the first 40 years of their existence. Like I said, I don't know the specifics, but I imagine it's something like this, you know?
Yeah. Like, and maybe the first 40 years, Rolex did their own, you know, communication with customers, but after that, their loyal customers became the person that talked to other people, so they don't really have to. Because and you know, Tom Ford, let's say maybe Tom Ford before he worked at Gucci, okay, he, you know, connects with his customers a lot. I think Tom Ford as a designer right now, he's really down to earth, and that's why I really love Tom Ford as a person. And fun fact for listeners out there, and I just learned that recently, actually, it kind of blew my mind. Tom Ford is from Austin, Texas. He does not look like a Texan, and it's just mind blowing to me. And but yeah, okay, this upcoming 2 questions is what I'm most interested in. First, what's the biggest misconception about perfume production that you can tell us, or just biggest misconception about perfume?
One of the largest misconceptions about perfumes or perfume chemistry is, and we're on the West Coast here, quite a few, what you would say, naturalists or hippies, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Dude, Vancouver's filled with them.
Yeah, right. So, one of the largest misconceptions is this idea that natural materials, natural perfume materials, are safer than synthetic materials, which is actually the complete opposite.
Oh, really?
Yes, synthetic materials are typically much safer than natural materials.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. So your body, it is either allergic to or it is not allergic to. It either reacts in a positive or a neutral manner to a molecule, or it reacts in a negative manner to a molecule. And actually the human body doesn't know if a molecule is synthetic or not synthetic. It just doesn't know the difference. And actually, this is kind of a side note, but in perfumery, there are so many thousands of materials that are neither synthetic nor natural. So that's a whole different conversation.
It's a hybrid.
Yes, yeah, kind of a hybrid. Yeah, exactly. But I'll give you an example. So I can craft a rose using 3 or 4 different molecules. I can use citronellol, geraniol, phenylethyl acetate, and phenylethyl alcohol, or 3 or 4 molecules. And I can buy these molecules just in a jar, and I mix them together in the right ratio, and you have something that smells just like a rose. And actually, a real rose, or rose essential oil, or rose absolute, is 98% these 3 or 4 molecules. And even these molecules, so the citronellol, for example, it's most often taken from lemongrass.
Oh.
So they strip it from lemongrass, they put it in a bottle, and you can mix it with other things to create a rosy smell. Now, here's the funny part. You put my synthetic rose, I actually, in my perfumes, I actually use real rose. But let's say you put some synthetic rose on skin. Now, you have 4 chances. Either you are or you are not allergic to molecule A. Either you are or you are not allergic to molecule B. Either you are or you are not allergic to, okay, so 4. You have 4 chances. Now, on the other hand, let's say on your right hand, you put on Rose Absolute or Rose Essential Oil. Now, Rose Essential Oil is 98% these 4 molecules, but the other 2% is 386 other molecules, tiny percentage of each one. So now you've gone from having 4 chances of being allergic to close to 400 chances of being allergic to one of those molecules.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, and then what the large perfume molecule crafting companies, usually in Germany or France, they have a long tradition of making aromatic molecules, is when they come out with a new molecule, if they come up with a new one, they put it through thousands of hours of testing on people's skin, so that they only release this molecule to perfume companies after it's guaranteed to be safe.
Oh, wow.
But nature doesn't do that. You see, essential oils are actually meant to keep bugs away from plants. Essential oils are actually meant to protect plants from disease and bugs and other things. So essential oils, very often, they will have aggressive properties to them. So one of the largest, most very misunderstood ideas is this idea that, that nature is friendly and that natural essential oils are safe for you, and that synthetics are bad because humans created them, and humans are evil and nature is good. That's kind of, the Vancouver hippie mentality. And I try to explain this to people. A lot of people, most people are like, oh, that kind of makes sense. But, some people are totally locked into their ideology and you just can't reach them.
Oh, yeah. I know someone, when you talked about naturalists, this person popped up in my head. I was like, I'm so going to tell that person, oh, you thought you buy that perfume, all natural, is good for you? Not anymore. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna... Damn, I didn't know. That's really interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I love this. I'm gonna take this out as a snippet and then post it on my Instagram. So another question I have is, okay, we covered misconception, but what's one thing you learned about perfume that normal people wouldn't know? Like, it's not a misconception, but they don't even know this existed, or this is a thing in perfume.
Well, there's no real secrets in perfumery. One thing that's for sure certain is if you want to learn how to make perfumes, you have to really do a lot of research and pick up obscure articles from across the internet and order old books and do that. So, like, learning how to make perfumes, I should put a little self-plug. I actually teach people online how to make perfumes. But it really is. It's not like painting, or it's not like any other art where there's very clear
Sculpting.
lessons and
Sculptures.
yeah, you can go online and watch. There's hundreds of videos of how to do this, so it's still a bit of a mystery that way. Yeah, it's not like anything in perfumery is kept a mystery, but it's not really revealed either. Is there anything shocking? I guess the most shocking thing is, some of these materials can be like unbelievably expensive.
Yes.
I have, so that's pretty shocking. Like a jar like this of oud or agar wood could easily cost, $10,000.
What? 10,000? I was expecting like 3,000.
No, I have a friend of mine in Turkey. Well, currently because of the pandemic, he's in England, but he produces some of the finest oud in the world. And he has some oud. It's for 3 milliliters. He's selling for $15,000 US. And that's not unheard of. So like and then there's very cheap materials, expensive materials. And it doesn't mean that the more expensive ones always smell better, but typically with the more expensive ones, you only need a little touch, and they're very influential, very powerful. So anyways,
damn.
Yeah, not too many secrets. Yeah.
Okay. So would you say like the perfume world or the perfume making scene is generally more transparent than a lot of other art community? Because I feel like for watch, okay, why not?
It's absolutely opaque. It's very, very secretive, actually. If you want to learn how to make perfumes, you have to be a little detective. Yeah, nobody's
Invites
just going
only.
to open up. No. I think it's probably just like watchmaking, where if you struggle for a couple of years and you show people your intention, then a older, more experienced person will share their knowledge with you.
So it's like it's harder to find a mentor that's willing to teach you to, reel you into the the perfume production scene.
More so than like fine art painting, oil paintings, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So, more about your style, your product. What is your favorite scent or ingredient to use in your product? For me, when I am looking for perfume, sometimes I've been struggling to find a perfume with this scent and it actually smells good on my skin. It's with Ylang Ylang.
Oh, okay.
I love that smell. It smells unique. It smells herbal. It's not something you smell every day. And I've been trying to find that. And there's this one brand called Le Labo or something like that.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. They carry a bottle with Ylang Ylang, and I smelled it. It smells so good, but on my skin, it smells complete garbage. So, and they're like kind of overpriced to me. Just kind of too expensive for me, so I didn't buy it. But yeah, what's your favorite scent or ingredients?
My favorite material to use, it's actually and it's a bit controversial because it's animal musk. Although the animals are never ever the animal is never hurt in the production of it, or it's not even the production, it's the okay, so here's the story. It's called civet musk. And speaking about animals, I have Mr. Boo Boo here with me. My poodle.
A cat? You have a dog? Oh, hello.
Yeah,
hey.
Yeah.
Dude, I love dogs, man. I just love cute things.
Yeah, me too. I love cute culture. I lived in Japan for a decade, but okay, that's side story. My favorite material, it's called civet paste, civet musk, and the civet cat, it's basically like a giant ferret. It's like a large ferret mammal, and they are kept on farms. Some of the farms, they run wild, and basically how you get this musk from the animal is they wipe their bottom with like a little spoon. So they just go like this, it's not like forced in their butt. They're not hurt or anything like that. But there's a lot of myths surrounding the extraction of or the taking of civet musk from the animal, and a lot of people think there's a ton of cruelty around it, which is absolutely not true. Maybe 40 years ago, they were mistreated, kept in really small cages and stressed out to produce more musk, but they don't do that anymore. And this musk, it comes to me in a, it's like a fatty wax. And when I open the jar, my house smells like you had been feeding a baby curry for the last month, and it just diarrhea exploded in its diaper. And you just open this fresh diaper of curry diarrhea. So you take this and you tincture it in a jar for many months. Here it is here.
I was going to ask questions about that jar.
Yeah, and this is actually this one is too much. This one is quite a bit. This is like a 10% tincture of civet musk. I need to add alcohol to this to make it, to dilute it more. And you put small amounts of this musk into especially floral perfumes. And it's just absolutely amazing because, well, imagine I was making a perfume for let's say a 12-year-old girl or something. I'm going to make just, a lily of the valley, very soft,
kind of simplistic,
very unoffensive, simple flowers. But
yes,
as we get older, I think human beings develop their own individual funk or smell.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to develop a similar formula for, let's say, a 20-year-old woman, a mature lady who's capable of having children, or they've reached their, their fertility, then I would add a little bit of this civet musk to give more body, more human smell, to help the perfume merge with their own skin, and to give a maturity and fullness to it. So the civet musk is probably my favorite material. It's very warm, it's honey-like, it's slightly stinky. It smells like body odor a little bit, almost like birdcage kind of smell. Wow. Or like a dry cheese smell, but not in a bad way. Most people find it really very nice. So I do like this. And the civet musk is probably my favorite perfume. And if I'm known for anything, it's probably my use of musks. Yeah. It's different kinds of musks, animal musks. And none of the musks that I used, none of the animals were hurt. So, yeah.
And here's the funny thing that I learned about independent perfumers, that I've been talking almost every day to another independent perfumer that's from New York. His name is David Falsberg.
Oh, David. I know David.
Yeah.
He studies with me.
Actually, okay, yeah. We've been talking about fashion every day, which is another topic, but
he's a real character.
He is. I love it. He is so complicated in a way. But one thing I remember vividly is that he talked about quite a few years ago, one of his collection, the theme is to recreate the memory and the smell and the scent of an ER. Of a hospital.
Okay. Yes, yeah, he spent some time in the hospital.
Yes, yeah. yes, exactly. And that's, although it's really weird to the outsider. It's like, who the fuck want to smell like a hospital, right? But that concept, that concept and idea is kind of the same as how watchmakers are trying to go avant-garde. Doing something different, like making a watch that looks like a clown. Like, who the fuck want to buy that? Or making a watch that looks like a time machine. Who the fuck want to wear that on a watch, right? So, and that's really fascinating to me. I was like, an ER at first. I was like, an ER like bandages? You want to smell like that? No way, I don't want to smell like that. But I love that concept though.
Yeah, I think with any artist, if they're driven by their own selfish vision of the world or something that relates to their own life, at first it might sound like this crazy idea, and you would think nobody wants to buy that. Like, who wants that? But I think at a level, the customer can really identify, okay, this person has a passion, you know, it smells like the ER, but I do like it, and I can see,
Yes.
you know, given his life story, I can see where this comes from, and sometimes people might wear that as part of the story. So with the micro brands and micro brand artisans, I think we should really sew a story, a piece of personal life, because when you're supporting these folks, if you show someone, you know, your clown watch or something, there's a story behind it, and it is something different, and it's something you feel a direct connection with the maker, and it is something special. And maybe you've spoken to them on email, and you're not buying just another product. Rolex is an amazing watch, absolutely, and hopefully one day I can afford to have one. But if I can afford, you know, there's an independent watchmaker from Japan who is just absolutely amazing. I think his name is Norihiko Noribu or something. If I can afford that, that would be like another level for me. Because I know that if I purchase it, I'll talk with them. I'll probably have his email, his telephone, and I'll ask him, why did you do this? And so I think people are looking for, I mean, if you can afford it, people are looking for something just a little bit more special, and independent watchmakers, independent shirt makers, independent shoemakers, leather makers. Go on to Etsy, you know, there's a million different independent artisans. Some of the stuff on Etsy is, you know, maybe cheap or not so good, but some of the stuff is really well crafted. And some of the stuff there that you can find is just like the value for the money, just, and the quality just blow you away. So if you have an eye for this and you can appreciate it, you want to sew that story into the production. You want to show a part of your life into it, and yeah.
Right. Another question I want to ask is because, you know, for whoever is listening to the podcast, most of my content is about watches and whiskey, and I remember you suggesting we should explore this topic where they're like booze, like perfumes, like perfume with whiskey scents, and although I myself is not a fan of booze perfume because I smelled a few and I just didn't like it, but what's your favorite maybe combination or encounter with a perfume that has a booze scent in it?
Actually, that's kind of funny because I'm making one right now. So I'm making a perfume using a little bit of this whiskey. I don't know if you know what this is.
Lafroy 10. Yes, of course.
It's very smoky. And it's very peaty. So
yes, sir. Yes.
It's very earthy. It smells like soil. And I've matched this whiskey up with a variety of perfume materials. I have peat smelling, suede smelling, salty smelling, mineral smelling, oak moss. And I've actually matched it up with another animal musk. So I matched up this Lafroy, how do you say it?
Lafroy,
okay, whiskey, which is very peaty smelling, with a tincture of Hyraceum.
What is that?
Or Hyrax. So Hyrax, it's a tiny little animal in Ethiopia. It's I'll spell it for you, Hyrax.
Oh my God, they look like Damn. Okay. Oh my God, they look
They're very
ferocious.
cute little animals, and they produce a musk called hyraceum. So basically, these tiny little, they look kind of like rabbits or something, and they live in some parts of Africa. I think mostly in Ethiopia. They pee in a corner of a cave for thousands of generations, and their urine actually mineralizes. And what perfumers do is they go into these caves and they chip off this completely mineralized, rock solid Hyrax pea.
Oh, pee.
And
Okay.
I grind it up and I smash it up into a powder and I tincture this in alcohol. And the Hyraceum, the Hyrax musk, it smells like cold, mineralized earth. It smells very peaty. It smells very ancient, like it's thousands and thousands of years old. It's a material that's very rarely ever used in perfumery. Real Hyraceum is very rarely ever used. I've got to order some more actually from my friend Dan, but I've matched that material up with the how do you say
Come
that?
on, say it. You can say it. You can say it.
Lafroig
Yes,
single mit, yeah, the peaty mit whiskey. And so I'm working on a perfume, a peaty, salty, dusty earth, ancient smelling perfume. So I'm trying to do that, and it's definitely something you're never going to find on the counter at any
at Hudson's Bay.
store.
You're not going to find that.
No.
At Nordstrom, no, never.
No.
Okay, I didn't prepare this question. I just kind of thought about it.
Okay, yeah.
So I asked about your favorite ingredient, but like, you know, for let's say for whiskey makers, they have kind of a profile of taste that they love to make because it's the most popular. Like, what's that profile? What's that scent profile that you enjoy making the most? Let's say floral, peaty, or something like that. Yeah.
My favorite type of perfume is Chypre. It's Chypre.
Chypre.
Yeah, Chypre perfumes, and more classic 19th century Chypre perfume. No, not citrusy. They are very complex perfumes. So if you pick up a perfume and it doesn't smell like pure citrus or cologne, if you pick up a perfume and it doesn't smell pure florals, if you pick up a perfume and it doesn't smell like purely like sugar, like a gourmand. Okay. But if this perfume has facets of all these other materials together, this is a Chypre perfume. It doesn't have usually doesn't have one overly dominant note, but it's a very complex mixture of various facets. This is my favorite type of perfume to construct. So I'm always working between nearly on the edge of making something muddy and then something that's complex with a number of facets. So if you smell my perfumes, for example, my Civet Chypre, you'll smell the fresh orange, you'll smell also at the same time, you will smell the florals and the patchouli, and at the same time, you'll smell the musky animal civet musk. So I like to play tricks with people, and I like a perfume that changes as it dries down, but more importantly, I like a perfume that's fairly complex, that has a multitude of identities, that's not super easy and super clear to understand. And then usually I gravitate towards the warmer, thicker perfumes because we live in a pretty cool city. If we were in Barcelona or in Tokyo, I'd probably gravitate more towards the cooler, fresher perfumes.
Oh, what's that word, Chypre?
Like
is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah, it's the French word for the island of Cyprus.
That description kind of reminds me of this one particular brand, Guerlain. Their products
Guerlain.
are Guerlain, or is that how you pronounce it? I thought it was Guerlain.
I'm saying it wrong.
I don't know, but yeah, that
Guerlain.
kind of reminds me of that brand because it's kind of love-hate relationship with that brand. Is to me, there are not a lot of products from them that I actually like, but most of them carry a really complex note, like as you said, a mixture of a lot of things. So you can't really pinpoint, oh, it's just floral, it's just fruity, but it's fruity and it's not, yeah. That reminds me of that. So as an independent perfumer, of course, I would say it is hard to convince any newcomer to jump into independent perfumes, right? Just like watch lovers, you can't just convince them to buy independent product right from the get-go. So if you were to introduce yourself to someone that's new to perfume, like what would you tell them? Like why should people buy perfumes from independent perfume makers?
Okay, so definitely if you're looking for something very different, if you're looking for that signature scent, something that absolutely nobody else has, then search out, independent perfumers, or a lot of the words often used is niche, Niche, niche perfumers. So do that. That is a really good reason just to have something very, very unique. Which is always quite good,
Yeah,
it's a good reason to buy.
Sometimes to me, buying watches from independent watchmakers is kind of like, your pursuit towards another level of finer things in life. Is like it adds to your character, it adds to your your overall as I said, pursuit of gentlemanly arts, right? And hey, here's the thing, like for watch lovers that have been listening to this podcast, we kind of understand what are the pros and cons of buying independent versus buying from big names. But perfumes, I haven't got a clue before speaking to you, but now we know, the main difference between independent and commercial perfumes. And there are actually not a lot of big differences between perfume and horology, if you ask me, when it comes to why we should buy independent perfumes and why we should buy independent watches. It's all about seeking something that the mainstream companies are not doing, and finding something that you yourself can connect with and just absolutely fall in love with. So
I agree.
Matt,
Yeah. I think in the pursuit of in the pursuit of being trying to be a gentleman, or just taking yourself to the next level, I think appreciation of art and artisanship, especially not just fine arts but artisanship, whiskey, watches, perfumes, fine tailoring, shoes, clothing, engineering, amazing cars, that sort of thing. I think it is part of being a quote unquote gentleman, just appreciating the world and appreciating the people who make these who devote their lives to making very good products,
Yes.
And when I was I lived in Japan for such a long time, well, not so long, 10 years. Okay, so I was there for about a quarter of my life, and what the Japanese really taught me, or what I really appreciate about their culture, is their devotion to excellence, and this is especially true of the artisans in Kyoto, the city of Kyoto. It's just a city filled with thousands and thousands of people who have really devoted their lives to turning out the greatest, finestly crafted,
chopsticks,
handmade,
bro.
chopsticks, toothpicks, or just even the most simple things, but they try to do it well. And I think part of being a gentleman is not just going through life, but I think it's trying to be the director of your life. It's trying to take the world, take life by the horns and living it on your own terms if it's possible. It's not always possible, but doing what you can, and by purchasing or learning about or becoming a member of a community of people who do that through their work, whether it's that they devoted their life to making the finest whiskey in the world or the finest watches in the world, you immerse yourself in a culture of other people who have the same goals as you. They also want to craft the world in their image. They want to craft the world, express their passion in life that way. So if you can support other people that do that, if you can do that with your own life, it just brings a higher meaning to your existence, rather than just sort of we live in Vancouver. We see a lot of people that kind of down on their luck, and maybe they just wish the world was a better place. They wish life was more fair. There's a lot of folks here in Vancouver who are really, they might attend a lot of protests. They want the wealthy people to give their money to the poorer folks. They're hoping the world around them changes. And you're a Hong Kong person, and what I really do love about Hong Kong people is they don't have so much this mindset of wishing the world around them changes. A lot of the Hong Kong folks that I know work very hard to change their circumstances. Hong Kong, as we know, is a hyper-capitalist city. It's kind of sink or swim, work hard to craft your existence. And I just think that a lot of folks, if they could, in Vancouver, in our city, if they could go out of their way to just to admire and appreciate successful people, if they could go out and see life in a more positive direction, and if they could go out and sort of craft their existence and make life their art, then that to me is a better thing than adopting huge political ideals and wishing the world would change. I think you change the things around you. If you can craft them, if you can use your hands, if you can make podcasts, if you could talk about things, if you could develop an appreciation for art and artisans, and just sort of get into this sort of creative mindset and development of something good that's just around you, I think the immediate impactfulness of craftsmanship and artisanship is something is a good direction to focus your energies, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
I love that little monologue you just have there. I fucking love that, because a lot of people, like I'd say, I quote them outsiders, when I talk about watches or whiskey, they'll be like, it's not that serious, man. It's just a watch. You can look at your phone. I was like, I mean, in one way, yeah, you can say it like that, but if you actually understand the reason why people like it, the motive, why these, let's say, independent perfumer like yourself, independent watchmaker, all over the world, why they would try so hard, work on their own to create something that maybe only one or two people are gonna like it, but they don't care actually, because it's their passion to create something finer than the world currently is seeing right now. And
well, I'll tell you, life actually rewards you for it. Life rewards you for it. I don't know if I should give you the figures of my sales this year, but I've certainly made more money this year than I ever have in my life. And
That's awesome, man.
And it's been by following that passion, by finally following my intuition. You're quite a bit younger than myself. I would say about 20 years younger, and I would say follow your passion, continue your craft, because it sounds like people always say, oh, follow your dreams. that is actually very practical advice, because I do believe life rewards you for it. I believe that's very, very practical, down to earth advice, actually. And that's I know awesome. That you're in university, but I don't think schooling is very important at all. I don't believe it has anything to do with success or with income. I believe life is trial and error.
Yes.
And it's persistently pursuing what you're good at and what you like. So, university, there's a lot of doctorate students or something like that. It's kind of like postponing real life. It's kind of, you're postponing it. Let's say you have your doctorate in underwater basket weaving or gender studies or something like that. What in the world are you going to do with that? Are the ideals that you've learned from this and the language that you've developed and all the sort of ideologies that you've taken in, how is that going to be a practical application to your life, to your little circle of friends? Let's say you get married. How are you going to support your family and spouse with that? I don't believe in the filter or the postponement of the individual and their negotiating with their environment. I think any university student, my advice to them is this sounds horrible, but don't even go to class and just start trying to make your own business immediately.
Well, okay,
I'm gonna probably get in trouble. No, nobody. I'm not gonna get in trouble.
You're not gonna get in trouble.
But I think so.
I was just gonna say, I understand what you're saying, but I kind of disagree on that, because if they want to do a master or a PhD, that's their kind of pursuit in life.
Okay, sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Like kind of us. Yeah. So if you want to do that, like go do that. But but if you are in school and you're like complaining why my life is so shit, why am I not doing anything, and you're not trying to change it, now that's a problem. And as you said just now, instead of wishing the world around you is going to change, you being an activist is cool, it's really good actually, but if you don't actively change yourself as well, then everything do is just obsolete. It's just useless. So like Michael Jackson said, man, you got to change the man in the mirror before you change the world. So exactly. That's such a good note to end this episode on. So thank you once again. Thank you once again, Matt, the person who made opening the gate to men's fashion on this podcast possible. He's the first guest on the podcast in 2021. His name once again is Matt Meleg, and his brand is called Meleg Perfume or Meleg Parfum. I'm going to link everything down below. Every link, Etsy store, his Instagram, everything down below on YouTube or Spotify you're currently listening to. So make sure to go check his stuff out. I'm actually looking forward for you to finish that booze perfume. So I'll
send you a sample when she's done. Yeah.
I would love to know if this will be the first perfume that changed my mind on booze related perfume. And so so remember,
and mineralized
guys,
pee.
And mineralized. I would love to know that smell, man. I have to know. Remember to stay hydrated, stay healthy, and in 2021, stay true to yourself and be the best version of yourself. This is Ryan. The guest today is Matt, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.